Hello, and welcome to the You, Me, We Therapy podcast. I'm your host, Jackie, and this is a podcast where I'm going to bring to you the topic of emotions and how they affect us and what we can learn from them. The reason I'm so interested in them is because I deal with them on a daily basis, as we all do, but I'm a therapist. So in counselling, people come with the topic of emotions. It could affect behaviours, thoughts, ideas, future goals, past hurts. There's so much to learn from them, and I actually see them as frequencies and energies that we can pick up on and feel. I certainly can, and I think it's useful to share what I've gained information of, and perhaps you may hear this and want to feed into this show as well and share some of your experiences, and we can broaden it up as a topic. I think there's so much learning to be gained from it, and as humans living this thing called life, we can evolve to better and higher places and get more out of this situation. This podcast isn't a substitute for seeking professional mental health guidance and advice. If something in this podcast or previous podcasts have felt upsetting and you feel you need further exploration, please seek professional mental health advice. And if you are unable to keep yourself safe, please take yourself to accident and emergency. We have Nikema Taylor today. She's a CBT therapist and a fellow professional. So I thought it'd be great to hear her point of view with regards to how she integrates spirituality and her practice.
First of all, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this podcast. I think, as I keep saying, that it's going to take off. It probably already has by the time people are listening to this. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, tell us a bit about your modality of therapy.
Ah, lovely. Okay, good. So there's a little bit of controversy with cognitive behavioral therapy because it tries to have one size fits all in a sense. There's an ideology that this type of therapy can help a lot of different people with a lot of different challenges, and it can, rightly so, it can, but it's not be all and end all. For those that don't know, cognitive behavioral therapy is the way in which we look at the way in which someone thinks about any particular life experience or challenge in their life, how they feel about it or how it affects their feelings, and look at their behaviors and what they do and how they've reacted, and also look at the physiological aspect and how it's affected them physiologically as well. There's other things that come with that, but that's overall what it is that we do. And then we look at different interventions, different strategies, different techniques to help them move through it easier or overcome it, whether it's OCD, panic, stress, anxiety, depression, social anxiety, phobias, health anxiety, self-esteem, and other common mental health challenges or emotional challenges. Teach people to be their own therapists.
It's like teaching people to be a scientist in their own life.
Yes, I love that. That's one of my favorite things to do, because what you then do is to allow the individual to not be in it, experiencing it, feeling well, but kind of remove themselves slightly from it and look at it holistically if they can, or as a bird's eye view, if you like, of a want of a better phrase, as opposed to just being in it and can't see anything out of it. So it allows them to have a little bit more, I don't like using this word, but I can't think of another one to explain it. A little bit more of a control on what it is and how it is that they're experiencing what it is, whether it's depression, anxiety, stress, etc. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, and it actually leads into an idea I was just thinking. It's almost a bit like, it sounds a bit crude as a comparison, but a bit like playing a video game.
I like that analogy though. I really do like it. I'm not necessarily a gamer, but I would be if I had the time. I really would be, because I like gaming, the idea of it. But yeah, you're right. You being the controller with the pad as opposed to being the character in the game. Is that what you were
Yeah, that's
referring
what I
to?
mean. It has a level of detachment
Hmm.
to it. And I think it leads nicely into the
Yeah.
point that I wanted to bring up in this episode about spirituality and therapy. And
Yeah.
actually, how my previous episodes, I talked about the observer being the observed. So
Mm.
when our behaviors change when somebody is observing us because we have an awareness that someone's observing us.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
how I feel that can kind of bleed into spirituality is that how we live our lives. If we have an understanding
Yeah.
or an idea that we're being observed by spiritual beings or a higher being or our higher self, then does that influence
Hmm.
how we carry out our lives and how we behave? And this, I wonder how you incorporate that, or what's your views on that with regards to how you practice your spirituality in something quite
Yeah.
mainstream like cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yes, great topic, by the way, and I think it needs to be discussed a lot, definitely. Or it's not discussed as far as I'm aware enough. But so yeah, let me just tell you, because I don't know about you, but the way in which we're taught usually in the quote unquote Western world is they don't necessarily bring spirituality within their curriculum of teaching this type of therapy, whether it's psychotherapy, counseling, cognitive behavioral therapy, not in depth compared to maybe, I don't know, other countries, other parts of the world. Um, they they might talk about it and discuss it from a client's point of view potentially, but it's not necessarily incorporated in the curriculum. That's my experience. However, I was trained back in 2015, so it might have changed now. Um, so especially with cognitive behavioral therapy, they like to talk about mindfulness and looking at how the Buddhists have practiced relaxation, calming techniques, that sort of thing. But they don't necessarily mention spirituality in depth. They just look at, okay, so we have adapted some of their practices in the way in which we teach the courses. So these therapists or soon to be qualified therapists can work in a particular way with their clients. So I say that all that to say that it's just not enough in therapeutic curriculums. Now, different types of religions that are out there, whether it's Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, I don't necessarily follow a particular mainstream type of religion. I have family, beautiful close friends who are in many different types of religions. I would say I definitely believe in a higher power, a higher entity, if I want a better word, because English does fail me when I like to talk about this sort of thing. So I definitely believe that there is something larger than us individually. However, as us as individuals are very, very powerful, I believe. And I believe in numbers, we can be a lot more powerful when it comes to even when if we all focus. If I had a group of people focusing, and I was part of this group of people focusing on something negative, 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 it will exacerbate. Again, if I do the opposite and focus with a group of people on something phenomenal, something great, something peaceful, it would just exacerbate that. So I believe there's very powerful as individuals we can be, and collectively even more so. So
Yes.
how I believe and how I've experienced life is, especially in the last 20 years, is that if I balance myself out or focus on the good, acknowledge that there is bad out there, of course, whether I've made mistakes or whether there's things that have happened. As long as I balance myself out or take the positives out of it, I'll be okay. I've always had an underlying thread that things are going to be okay. Um, And I think that's my safety net, my spiritual safety net. Through the years, I've also done some research on ancient African traditions, ancient African cultures, whether it's the West African kind of Yoruba traditions, the Ifas, or whether it's the North East African ancient Kemetic, which is now called Egypt, the 11 laws of Ma'at. And they resonate very well with me because it I consider that part of the world, the continent, one of my homes. I'm a worldly being, but it's one of my homes. And it makes me feel at peace. It resonates very well with my spirit, if you like. And a spirit for me would be the blueprint of who I am, the actual true essence of my being. And this beautiful body, this is a vessel that's carrying this beautiful spirit and my soul within.
Are there skills that you feel you have that are therapeutic, that are informed by your spiritual practice or your spiritual view?
Yes, definitely. I would say that I believe or I know in my heart of hearts that everybody on this planet innately wants to be good and wants to do good, because when we are good and when we do good, our physical vessel repairs itself. It's at peace. When we are angry, depressed, annoyed, and all of that negative stuff, it actually hurts our body biologically. So, in order for us to self-preserve and be at peace, good things and balanced things is something that's natural to the man and woman on this planet, the boy and girl on this planet. So when I am working with my clients, that's always in back to front of my mind, that it's unnatural, even though we have to experience this negativity, but to sit in it and keep there is not so natural. Peace is what we strive, all of us. Not everybody agrees with this, but this is what I believe, that peace is what we strive to be aiming for in life, because it gives us a self-content feeling. Some people would say happiness, but for me, I would say peaceful. I think that there's a spectrum. So the spectrum is either one side, there's got happiness, you've got pain, negativity at one side, happiness, love, joy at the other side, and right in between, it would be peace and balance. And I think that that's what innately we want, whether it's spiritually, whether it's psychologically, whether it's physically, emotionally, that's what we all want or need. And it's great to have excessive joy, love, and happiness, but it's not normal to sustain that all the time, constantly. Again, negativity can serve its purpose, definitely. It has to be there, because if we didn't experience negativity and pain, how would we know what joy, love, and laughter looks like or feels like?
Everything needs to have its opposites so it can push itself off from, so it can get a sense of itself.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's the hermetic look at polarization. They look at masculine and feminine. They look at, in no particular order, you've got masculine and feminine. You've got polarization, so above, so below, mentalism, three more that I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it's part kind of the nature of the world, or the earth, shall I say?
Yes, and it's quite
And the universe
interesting,
as well.
like you said, that it doesn't get taught enough in the programs, because obviously people who hear our voice and understand we're from Britain, and it doesn't necessarily get taught enough.
Yeah.
And yet we've linked it back to something that's quite deeply spiritual, the laws of Ma'at, which is from ancient Kemetic practices, which sits in Africa. It's interesting how the way that the current or let's say new, the last 100 years of psychology, psychiatry, and therapy
Yeah.
has come from a very westernized point, but actually a lot of the roots of it comes from Africa.
Very.
And when you go to visit the Freud Museum in London,
100%.
if anyone's ever been, if you walk through his
Yes.
house, it's full of
I've
Egyptian
been.
artifacts, and he was very interested in Egypt.
Very, very, but it's rarely spoken about.
Very much
Rarely
so.
spoken about, and I was quite shocked. But I wasn't shocked because back then, and largely now, no disrespect, it is still what's the word? Prejudiced. And I'm sure the ideologies that they had, Freud, and whoever else had, were quite prejudiced against anyone who wasn't European or Caucasian. And even though a lot of them were taught by potentially ancient principles, namely Kemetic principles and others, they wouldn't want to credit those of what they've learned. They wouldn't want to, because they definitely wanted it to be European and European founded.
Thank you for that. Going back to spirituality, listening to
You're
you as well,
welcome.
it made me thinking with regards to CBT, and you're saying about the spiritual side of your idea that people are really seeking peace. It makes me think of the idea of,
Yes.
in a manifesting spiritual context, thoughts become things.
All right.
Yet with the CBT construct, thoughts become things, they become behaviors. So the line is actually very thin between spiritual principles and the practicality of turning up for an IAT session at a GP's practice. You know, thoughts influence behaviors. Yes.
100%. Oh my goodness, so much. And what we try to do is encourage people to exercise their mindset and see their mind as a muscle, or their brain as a muscle, and we're trying to continue to train it to be a particular way so we can build up that neurological pathway that's strong and allows them to keep thinking in a particular way that's balanced for them, or that's going to benefit them in the long run, and to really reduce the neuron pathways that have been anxiety provoking or destructive, etc. So yeah, it really is. It is a kind of a rhythm and a routine that we encourage them to continue doing. And if they don't continue doing it, they might flip back to the old ways of thinking and feeling, etc. And like spirituality and religion, if you like, it is a routine of you doing something, thinking a particular way, and having something ingrained from learning about God or learning about spirituality.
I think that's an amazing way to link it together. And you're talking about balancing the brain, which then makes me think of actually in the pragmatic 3D world, it's balancing the brain.
Yeah.
If we thought about it in spiritual context, it's about trusting your higher self.
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
and
I love that.
I have a
agree.
feeling that there'll be more interest in the spiritual aspects of what counselling and therapy can do for people. I don't ask me, maybe it's my higher being telling me this. I don't know where I'm getting the feeling from, but I think like the days of the stereotypical idea of somebody needing help, they go to a therapist, they think of sitting on a couch and a therapist sitting like behind them with a clipboard. They think of psychotherapy. And if you've noticed, when they have if they have movies about therapists, I don't think Hollywood portrays therapists in a good light at all. We're always having affairs with our clients, breaking rules, and kind of all mixed up in all kind of like unethical practices. When actually, for the reality is, many therapists actually, I believe, are secret spiritual healers. We use words and we listen with our empathic ears and we offer compassion, But the worth of a good
Mm-hmm.
therapist is their ability to really build that rapport and have a sense of service to others type of a feel,
Yes.